Here is exactly why you have no idea how to find clients. It's a tale as old as time. It's something I see over and over again. So when I get on calls with my coaching clients, what I teach in my course, it's always kind of the same thing. It's like you have this dream of working and getting paid to deliver services and be independent, be location independent, work from home, do all of this stuff, right? And we all start out with that dream, and then it goes to, okay, well, what can I do then online? What services can I offer online? And then we choose something like virtual assistant or writing or marketing or Pinterest management, or like I said, virtual assisting, maybe web design. We all have these services we want to offer. So we take a course on how to deliver that service, a Pinterest management course, a virtual assistant course, a web design course, and we learn the skill. And then we feel so good and productive when we're learning the skill. And then we're kind of stuck, right? Because okay, so that's object number 2 that I pulled out of the dog's mouth. So first a mint and now a piece of plastic. It's just anything that's on the floor he will put in his mouth. So bear with me, because I have an absolute mongrel in the background wreaking havoc on my life as I record this. You might even hear him snorting right now in the background. So after you're done with this course, you're like, cool, I want to offer this service. I know how to do this thing. What do I do now? And that's what's so frustrating. And that's why so many people are burnt out on courses and like coaches and learning. There he is, I got him. That's why they're so burnt out on learning and investing, because they're like, girl, I have spent thousands on this course and I am no closer to the dream of making money and doing the thing. So I empathize with that. I understand, and I'm going to explain why that happens. Skill acquisition, of course, is important. You need to know what you're doing, obviously, to offer a service, but that is only step 1, and that might not be where you want to invest the majority of your money. The skill acquisition, you might want to actually do as much free stuff as you can, okay? You might want to set a deadline for yourself and say, I'm gonna learn the basics of web design and maybe take like a low cost course on Udemy and get proficient in this versus spending $3,000 to learn the skill, because you don't know if anyone's gonna pay you for that skill yet. Client acquisition and sales and marketing of those skills that you learned is a course in itself. It is a whole different skill set in itself that is completely separate from actually learning the skill. So that's the first thing. That's why you don't have clients, is that you invested a ton in a course that taught you how to do the thing, but didn't go into detail, or it was left as like a cursory next step of like, and now that you know how to do this thing, start DMing people and sending cold messages to people, fill out the contact form on their website, cold email them. And people are like, what the hell? Like, number one, they either try it because they're like, well, I'm not lazy, I'm going to do it. And they send 100 messages and nobody answers. And they're like, wow, maybe this isn't for me. I clearly suck at this. When really it's no, you didn't have the strategy. You just went full force and you did something that there was no guarantee you were going to get the outcome because it wasn't strategic. There wasn't a plan behind it. It was just spray and pray, as we used to call it in sales. And then the second group of people is like, well, I need to actually learn how to do this. Like, don't just tell me to go out and message a bunch of people. There needs to be a strategy behind this. And that's where a lot of people come into my stratosphere, my universe, is because they're like, I learned how to do this thing, but I don't know how to get clients. And that's what I teach people how to do, is get clients. Let's see if we can get some close-ups of Gizmo. Hi, little boy. That's my boy. That's my son. Am I so lucky I get to stay home as a stay-at-home dog mom? A stay-at-home mom. That's me. So I'm going to tell you, I have my notes here. We're going to explain why you're stuck in this, like, I don't know how to get clients. And I'll break it down, and then I'm going to go into the steps of like, well, how do you actually find clients? So here's where courses start. They'll tell you how to do the skill. They'll say, build a website, and then they'll tell you, package your services. Here, craft this offer, and it should include Pinterest management and content writing and this service and this service and this service, and price it at this. And then you spend all this time, well, how do I price it? How do you price yours? It's all this stuff about package creation and pricing when you have not even talked to a single person to see if they need this service or what services they need, let alone pricing, right? You have to understand whether or not someone needs what you have to offer before you start creating these like newfangled projects and packages and services. And I'm lucky that I work with a coach, because whenever I get into that mindset of like, well, I need to package my services in a way, she always says, stop. Don't waste your time on that, because the minute you go out and talk to clients, you're going to find out what they really need. And all of that time that you spent building these packages and, creating a little Canva doc and making it look pretty, it's like irrelevant, because that's not even necessarily what they want, right? Then I'll get a lot of questions about like contracts and DBA, doing business as, and like, should I do an LLC and which website builder and what website and business bank account and taxes. And I'm like, whoa. Before any of that happens, like, do not even fill your brain with that information until you have the fundamentals, the basics, the foundation. Because what I find, although like, hello, I don't want to get, I don't want the IRS after me. Of course, we need to know things about business bank accounts and taxes and all that stuff. Of course, we need to know how we're going to get paid. But what I find was that when people have those questions for me, which are pretty easy to Google pretty much, it's because they're wasting time and they're thinking 10 steps ahead. And they're like, well, if I don't know about a business bank account, then I can't start pitching clients, because then how are they going to pay me? And it's like, we do that. We think we need to have every single thing figured out. We need to have every step of the plan in a little neat strategy doc before we actually do what we need to do. And that's like a procrastination. It's how we keep ourselves safe. And it helps us to make us feel like we're doing, productive things. We're being busy, we're being practical, we're being strategic, but really it's just procrastination and fear, right? So here's where you actually start. And I took notes on this. Number one is just choosing your niche or quote unquote industry. Doesn't have to be this one thing where you box yourself off to all other opportunities, but you need to know what world you are planting your flag in. So if you're going to become an expert and you're going to be someone who charges multiple thousands of dollars for these services, you need to build a brand around yourself and become an expert at that thing. So choose the world. If the word niche is too overwhelming to you, think of it as universe. What universe or world are you going to step into and plant your flag, so that when, a podcaster in that space thinks to have a guest on, you're the person they think of. When somebody at like a local business event says, I need this service, you're the person that they think of. That's the compounding interest of having that brand recognition built up, like in a certain world. But if you just target every single company and you're just a generalist and you offer every single service to any type of business, that's why we're living in too crowded of a world for you to stand out that way. So you need to be known for delivering specific services to a specific set of people with a specific set of problems. Doesn't mean you have to just, I only work for tech companies, or I only work for tech companies that do this. No, but if you're in, like, let's say the software as a service world, SaaS, well, you solve very specific problems, which is people who charge on a monthly basis. So instead of, I know people get really turned off by the niche thing and they're like, I don't want to limit myself and I have so many different things I can do for different types of businesses. Look for the commonalities that those businesses have. Do they charge on a monthly subscription basis? Are they in like the fashion, beauty, e-commerce world? You want to know what industry you are playing in if you ever hope to build up brand recognition in that universe. And then step number 2, I would call it like 2A, is not only what companies are you going to target, what businesses are you going to target in that niche, you're going to say to yourself, who are the players with money? PWM. Because the problem is that, let's say you're like, well, I want to target like Etsy sellers. Yes, there's really successful Etsy sellers that have budget to outsource their services to. Maybe you want to target YouTubers. Yes, there's a ton of YouTubers, but there's a big difference between a YouTuber who has a team and a YouTuber who just started yesterday. You need to be able to spot the telltale signs, not only of people who are in your industry, but people who have the budget and the need to outsource services to. Don't play this uphill battle game where you're reaching out to people and convincing them that they need Pinterest management services. If they can't see the need for Pinterest already, if they can't see the need for a copywriter or a content writer, they don't understand outsourcing, you're playing a losing battle right then and there. You need to be able to look at people and kind of gauge like, hey, is this someone who's established enough for me to even pitch? Because if they don't have the budget to pay me, it's going to be a waste of time. Even if I can get them on a call, even if I can sell them some type of service, they're going to be haggling you on prices. You have to target the people who are ready to outsource and take this off their plate. And those are established business owners that are making enough revenue where now they're valuing their time and they want to outsource. So when your time becomes more valuable, that's as a business owner, when you're like, I need help, I need to outsource this, I need to outsource this to a contractor, that's where you would come in, right? So that's a telltale sign. The other step is, so number one, so far we've chosen a niche and clients with budget within that niche, right? Now you're going to study how to position yourself to appeal to those people. So this is where people get it wrong. They create this online presence about content writing or copywriting, and they're like, their whole thing is going to the market and saying, I'm a copywriter, I'm a designer, hire me. I'm a copywriter, hire me. Hi, I'm a copywriter, hire me. That's their pitch, that's their website. It just screams self-centered, me, here's what I do. And then they wonder why nobody responds to their pitches. It's because it's not about the client and their needs. It's about you and your copywriting business, which nobody cares about. Because this is the thing, as a business owner who is going to hire a copywriter or content writer, they're not waking up most of the time saying, I need a copywriter. Copywriter, today's the day, I need a copywriter. That's my biggest problem. I don't have a copywriter. No, that's not their problem. Their problem is that, hey, I'm getting horrible open rates on my emails. I'm getting no traffic to my website. I'm posting content and it's not getting any traction. Why? Who can help me with this? What do I? So that's where you come in, is that you're positioning yourself around that client's problems. Only when you can insert yourself into that client's problem will you gain their attention, grab their attention with your pitch. If you are just sending pitches saying, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm a copywriter, hire me, that's why messages get ignored. It's not because you're broken or you're wrong or you're hopeless or any of this stuff. It's because you're not positioning yourself around what that client needs. So that's another thing that you're really not going to get if you take like a skills acquisition course. Give me 1 second. If you take a skills acquisition course, they're not going to be able to dive deep enough with you to be like, okay, who's your ideal client? What do they need? How do we position you specifically so you appeal to those ideal clients? Do you see how all of those steps came before you built your website, before you build your packages? You understand what worlds you play in, who you're wanting to target, and then everything else needs to be downstream from those two things. That's how you write a website that appeals to that person, to that business owner. That's how you write a pitch that appeals to that business owner, is because you gain an understanding of what their pain points and their desires are and how you can position yourself around that. So I just got off a coaching call with someone who wants to offer Pinterest management services. And I was saying this exact thing to her. I said, no business owner wakes up saying, today is the day, I need a Pinterest manager and I hope one reaches out to me. They're saying things, they're articulating their problems in ways like, I get no traffic. Why am I posting this blog post and I spent 5 hours on it and $200 for someone to write it, but it's generating no traffic to my website? Well, she as a Pinterest manager can come in and say, I can help you get more mileage out of the content you're already producing and generate more traffic to your site so that we can help with this lead gen effort, right? We can get we can superpower your SEO with Pinterest. So when you understand what the online business or what the business owner wants and needs, then you can position yourself around the pain points and desires that they have, right? That's where you build your online presence around. That's how you know your website says the right thing, that your pitch says the right thing. And then this is the final stage, which is marketing and sales. So marketing and sales is how you bring people to that online presence that you built, right? And you need to do a mix of both. But if you're just starting out and you need money, which we all do, you need to be heavier on the sales side than the marketing side. So sales is any one-to-one interaction. That's you going out and actually talking and having conversations with people. And that can happen in a number of different ways. It can happen with cold pitching. It could happen with maybe pitching yourself to be on a podcast or be a teacher in somebody's community. You go to networking events and ask to stand up and speak. You can reach out to somebody and say hey, I love what you're doing. Can we network and get to know each other and collab? You can send them an Instagram DM. There's a lot of ways to have those one-to-one interactions, coffee chats. And that's going to be the sales portion of your business. And that's going to be the fastest and most direct way to get in touch with people. Maybe it's applying even to a role. Let's say you are on those websites like Upwork and Fiverr, which I don't recommend, but whatever, everyone's situation is different. So if you are on there, maybe it's pitching on those platforms. For me, I use LinkedIn, so maybe I'll apply to a LinkedIn job. I do a lot of cold pitching in my business. These are the one-to-one interactions that are the most impactful. They will get you to the result the fastest. They will get you your foot in the door and help open those initial opportunities. They will open those initial doors with clients that never would have reached out to you, right? So let's say, like for me personally, how this worked was that I targeted tech brands with cold pitches. I reached out to them directly. I got projects with them, and then I was able to put their logos on my website, which built credibility and trust. And then whenever I pitched someone else and they saw those logos, it helped. It just helped build my credibility and had me be someone that they actually trusted enough to get on a call. And they're like, okay, you've written for that client. I guess you can do the same for me, right? So the second piece, other than the sales and marketing piece, which before I get into the marketing part of it, let me just make this clear. There's a lot of different ways to do sales efforts and outreach. And again, it goes back up to the top of what we talked about in the beginning. If you don't know who you're reaching out to and what industry or world you're playing in, understanding the proper way to do sales is going to be really hard, because certain demographics of business owners do sales in different, they're sold to in different ways. So I'll just give you a prime example. In the B2B tech space, when I was writing heavily for enterprise B2B tech companies, LinkedIn and sending messages to people within the marketing department was like surefire. That works. They are used to getting pitched and they are used to doing business with people in that way. If I want to pitch, let's say, a personal brand photographer or like a coach online, that's not a demographic of people that is always going to respond super well to a cold pitch. It's not to say it's impossible. It's more of a trust game with people who I would say are like in the solopreneur categorization, or they're not playing with a company's budget. They're kind of paying out of their own pocket. Like small businesses take the money to pay contractors and freelancers out of their own pocket. Therefore, you're going to need a lot more trust than just sending a cold pitch. Whereas somebody who's a content marketing manager in a 5,000 person company is more likely to take their $20,000 budget that they got, $20,000 budget that they got for the quarter, and give a freelancer a chance. So when you understand how your target demographic, like this world that you're playing in, these people, when you understand how they buy and sell, you can fit yourself into the strategy and be more likely to outreach to them or network with them or meet them or talk to them in a way that they actually respond to. My husband sells to restaurants. He's in sales, and these are the type of people, like the target demographic that he pitches to and sells to. They are not on their phone and email. Therefore, going in person and meeting somebody face to face is the absolute best way to get in touch with his target demographic. So as a copywriter, as a marketing person, I helped him with all of these great emails, and most of the time they don't get responses. They fall on deaf ears because that's not where they're sitting all day. Maybe somebody who's like a restaurant group owner who is very much like sitting in the office and has their computer up, maybe they respond to pitches that way, but the actual person who's involved in the operations is way less likely to respond to an email. So when you understand who you're reaching out to, then you can tailor your outreach strategy to what actually works for them. Now let's move on to the marketing side, because marketing is an attraction game. Instead of reaching out to people one-to-one, instead of targeting people, you create content. Maybe you do content marketing, or maybe you go on a podcast, maybe you do SEO. These are necessary elements of running a freelance business, but you have to understand that they're not immediate. They could take anywhere from 6 months to a year to get you a result when you're just starting out. Different rules of thumbs for different type of industry and platforms, but you want to be sprinkling in marketing activities, pairing them with your sales activities, but understanding that sales is where you're going to want to spend the most of your time doing that one-to-one, direct outreach, because it's what you can control, right? You can measure it, you can control it. You can say, wow, I sent 20 pitches a day for 10 days. What is my response rate? And then once you know your response rate, you can improve it. You can see what's working. You can identify what's wrong. You can troubleshoot. Right? That's like immediate, but you also want to be building your brand on the side, not as heavily, because we only have so many hours in a day. You can't do a ton of cold pitching and then also run this like elite content marketing arm of your freelance business unless you have a team. When it's just you need to do the best with the time that you have as a single person, as one person. So I would say the biggest mistake I made in my business was relying so much on sales, because it's what I'm good at, it's how I was trained, but that will keep you in a constant hustle. It's only through marketing your business that you will get the long-term compound effect, that you will, maybe end an engagement with a client and not have to freak out and hustle with that feast and famine to get another client, because you have some brand equity built where you reach out to people and they're just more likely to say yes to you, or you have inbound leads coming to you so that you're not constantly, hustling for the new, starting from scratch every time an engagement ends. So that's my best advice, is like, hey, build your online presence, do that one-to-one outreach, be consistent. It is measurable, which is great, but also be doing the brand building on the side. That could be appearing on podcasts. It could be going to maybe networking events and like being a speaker. It could be doing content marketing. Like I'm starting to post on LinkedIn a lot now. It could be building an email list. So always pair marketing activities with what you're doing on the sales side, but understand if you're just starting out or if you want results faster, then you're going to be heavier on the one-to-one sales side and you have to be dialed in. And then in terms of marketing, if you have all the time in the world and you're like, well, this is just like a long-term play for me, like I don't need to leave my 9-to-5 job or I don't need to make money, then build a blog, start doing SEO, start today, because you know that consistency over time in a year or two could build up to like momentous results. But for most of us, we kind of need to hustle and get clients in the near term. We're wanting to, put that deadline of like, I know I'm going to leave my 9-to-5 job at this time. And that's why really getting good at sales in the sense, and don't think like, oh, you need to become this like highly persuasive person. No, just understanding one-to-one outreach, understanding what clients actually need and then positioning yourself around that. That's what I mean by sales. That will get you from point A to point B. And then it's a matter of just, okay, now how do I scale this up? How do I repeat that process until I'm making what I want to be making? Oh, thank you so much. Someone said, just want to say I appreciate all the value you give out, especially in your podcast. You have no idea how much your podcast has helped me. Thank you. I don't know if you're listening to my podcast or my YouTube channel, because I don't really upload on my podcast anymore, but I just do the YouTube episode. So thank you so much for joining me. Gizmo says, hi, everyone. Hi, big boy. Say hi. This is my son.